Recently, there's been some discourse on Twitter surrounding art from the manga Komi Can't Communicate, specifically this panel from a recent chapter. If you don't already know, Komi Can't Communicate is a very popular rom-com / slice of life manga that was also adapted into a wildly successful anime series. The story follows a girl named Komi, who is extraordinarily beautiful, but also comes off as very cold and distant due to pretty much a resting bitch face. On top of that, she doesn't speak to any of her classmates, or anyone for that matter, making people assume she's uninterested in others or even uptight and unfeeling. In reality, Komi is actually a very kind, sensitive, and an all-in-all average girl who just has an extreme case of social anxiety and mutism. The other main character, Tadano, realizes her predicament, and the series is about him helping her make 100 friends throughout their high school life. It also follows Komi and Tadano's love story, which is a slow burn, since they just recently became an actual couple in the manga after around 300 chapters. Many people are claiming the mangaka, Tomohito Oda, has undergone some sort of art regression and is an all-around worse artist than he used to be, using various examples of new panels featuring Komi and comparing them to the beginning of the manga, where she tends to be drawn much differently. The old Komi was drawn to look very intimidating and cold, which contrasted with her real personality. Sometimes she was also drawn with a very cute, clueless expression, which she still retains to this day. However, in certain panels of Modern Komi chapters, she's drawn to look kind of odd. Her face was subtly squished downwards over time, nose going from bridged and defined to a small little button nose when facing the audience. Her eyes went from very flat and bored looking to extremely slanted and pushed farther apart. On a 3/4 view, she used to have a defined nose that lengthened her face and made her look more mature, versus Modern Komi where she objectively looks more childish and young. Her overall face shape became more round and her eyes became bigger. The thing is, Komi isn't the only character who changed. It's abundantly obvious that Tomohito's entire art style shifted throughout working on Komi, which has been serialized for almost an entire decade now. He draws almost every, especially female, character with these huge slanted eyes, tiny button noses, and huge foreheads. I don't necessarily think any of that is a bad thing. Personally, I think it's pretty obvious that the mangaka has improved his skills in almost every regard. The line art, paneling, the extra details put into each character's hair, clothing, eyes, all of it is an upgrade. His art style has changed, yes, but it's a bit of a misunderstanding to say his artistic ability has devolved. Many people prefer the original art style over the new one, which I think is fair, and arguing with people about their personal preferences when it comes to what art they find appealing or not is totally useless and dumb. However, Komi as a character does come across pretty differently now versus then. For example, look at these two drawings of her from the beginning of the series versus recently. They're making the same expression from the same angle, and yet you get a very different feeling from them. Recent Komi is drawn very angular, with a lot of small details around her eyes, hair, and cheeks used to make her look like a delicate porcelain doll. She looks neutral, and although she does have those very slanted, angular eyes, I don't feel a vibe from her that makes me think that girl is totally unapproachable. Old Komi looks bored and annoyed as hell. She looks like if I walked up to her and tried to speak with her, she'd tell me to fuck off, which was obviously the intention and a big reason as to why she had no friends. I saw 2 tweets defending the new art style as a narrative choice, so I'd like to cover that argument right off the bat. The first tweet goes, "Not liking the designs is valid, but I feel the choice of having Komi going from a harder, more rigid design to a softer one is actually great subtle storytelling. She's being perceived how she actually is, a regular girl, and not the ice queen that people thought she was." The second tweet follows suit, but in a slightly more aggressive tone. "All this recent Komi slander is so nasty, man. As if 480 chapters and 3 in-universe years later, she's still not allowed to lose her stoic expressions. She's now more comfortable expressing herself, and the softer expressions are reflective of what her friends now view her as." I straight up don't agree with this take at all. First of all, I find it a little funny that the second tweet reminds us how long Komi has been going, for over 480 chapters now. Sure, some of those chapters are pretty short, but a lot of them are a good length. The story of Komi Can't Communicate has been going on so long that Tomohito ended up changing how he draws completely, which is totally normal for an artist over time. If it was just the softening of her expressions, I might buy the idea that it was a narrative choice, but Komi's entire facial structure changed, not just her expression. Like I mentioned earlier, the mangaka now draws pretty much every female character with the shorter faces and big slanted eyes, especially if they're supposed to be considered beautiful. This idea of trying to intellectualize his art style change as some genius writing maneuver is disingenuous to me. I think those tweets, especially the second one, came off like they were trying to make people who don't like the new art style feel stupid for not getting it. I find that attitude pretty annoying considering it's very obviously just a simple art style change that happened over time. One of the main criticisms of the new Komi art style is that she is reminiscent of an inbred dog breed, specifically pugs or even bullies, like Pimpy-san Op. The logic is that through selective breeding for certain features like huge eyes, tiny noses, and itty-bitty mouths, Komi has slowly become sort of a garish parody of herself. Certain panels definitely contribute to this theory, especially ones where her mouth is opened and placed oddly in the middle of her face. The shape of her mouth being opened is typically a perfect circle with a little bit of shine on her tongue. Not to be crude, but it does kind of look, as my friend Zach put it, like porn of her own series. Especially the panel that went viral on Twitter, which is by far the most egregious example of this phenomenon. Around chapter 200 to 350, there lies a transitional art style. This is the sweet spot between the original Komi style and the modern inbred style, and what I believe the anime uses. It has the bigger eyes and the more detailed hair and face, but doesn't push it as far as modern Komi does. It's a very safe art style and looks really good, especially how they animated it in the show. Now, I'm going to tell you a secret. Save for some very select panels, I actually prefer the modern Komi art style over the original, and even the transitional phase. I genuinely like how unique and kind of weird it looks. The slanted eyes are very striking to me, and I love how the mangaka draws Komi's hair. I completely understand why people don't like the new art style, especially if they've been a fan of Komi since the beginning. Since, like I said earlier, she's very different now. But inbred Komi is simply the result of Tomohito changing his style, and I actually appreciate it. It's cool that he feels comfortable enough to kind of experiment with these very exaggerated features, even if they don't always come out looking great. He definitely gets tunnel vision sometimes and tries to make Komi as appealing as possible without considering how strange the final product can end up looking. But, like I've stated numerous times throughout this video, overall, Modern Komi looks great. Tomohito in no way regressed in his artistic ability. Being an artist is a lifelong commitment to change and fluctuations, trying things out and switching things up. The fact that the art changed so drastically over time signals to me that he isn't a stagnant artist. His old style was good before, but he wasn't satisfied with it. I'm sure he could draw Komi like he used to if he truly wanted to, but he doesn't. No amount of people pleading on Twitter for one direction or the other will matter at all. All that being said, saying Modern Komi looks like the results of anime girl inbreeding is pretty funny. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe for more of my shitty anime opinions. I'm trying to get more videos out soon, and the support would mean a lot.
"不思議なことに携帯